Hey, good morning. After 9 a.m., we sleep in on Sundays. Good morning. Happy Sunday. Hobby Evolution episode 758. I think I fired my computer up at 4 a.m. and it just now got started. Uncle Rich is here. Good morning. Thank you. We've got Herman in the house. What's up? Jenny is here. Rich went to a Secret Santa trade night party that the LCS hosted last night. Tonight is the first night of Hanukkah. My wife is still in Florida, so I'll just wait for her to put out the menorah on night 3. Wait, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Oh, and she won't be home until late Tuesday, so we're going to miss like half of Hanukkah. Let's see. Cooter, what's up? We've got Jenny going to be a hobby day here in -3 Minnesota. It is certainly a hobby day today for me because yesterday was card show day. Friday night, I stopped shipping in preparation for the card show. And then, of course, I just kind of abstain from shipping after a card show. And so that means right now I have 200 and the internet's booting up on my phone. 247 items to ship. 247. So it will be a busy day of shipping and cleaning. Why? Because the cleaners come tomorrow. And that's the busiest time to clean, is preparing for the cleaners. So I probably won't even step foot outside, aside from opening the door for Biscuit to go potty. Dan in the house. What's up, Dan? Howdy. Working on a PPT game for this week's classes. What is PPT? I don't even have a clue. PPT. Personal protection. Pirate Penzance. Pittsburgh Pirates PowerPoint. PowerPoint. I was way off. PowerPoint. Working on a PowerPoint game. So Dan, yes and no. Mostly no. Her and her mother. So my mother-in-law has a home in north of Miami, near Boca Raton. So they go down there for a couple weeks in December. And I think my mother-in-law will go. My mother-in-law spends a few months down there, but come back and forth. So kind of. Let's see. Sleeping Beauty. We have been waiting. I've been sleeping in. Biscuit was even up before me. And I'm like, I'm going to sleep in. It's Sunday. I was up super early. I was up at 4:30 Saturday morning, which I know for some of you is like normal time, but not for me. That's early for me. That's super early for me. So, and Biscuit likes sleeping until 9 or 10. And so 4:30 came really early for the poor puppy. So I figured she'd want to sleep in, but no, she was like ready to go. And Biscuit has her routine. She gets a belly rub in bed, and then she goes potty, and then she gets a bone. Then she goes and crashes on the couch and falls back asleep. That's Biscuit's morning routine. She's so excited to start the day of potty, bone, and couch. Let's see. Sal Dougie, what's up? Abraham was in the house yesterday at the Sheraton Hotel. I got to see Abraham. I got to see Victor. Let's see. Dan says, PowerPoint, ship, and more shipping. Yeah, it's ship. No list. Ship. Maybe tonight I'll list some cards. I'll show off some cards. Madison Card Show review. It was a great show yesterday. Mark Shu, what's up? First time catching the show live. Awesome. Welcome. Glad that you could pop in the chat. Excuse me. Where are we at? Zach and Porter in the house. He knew it was PowerPoint. Del Boca Vista. Boca Raton is like, there's, I think Seinfeld, they based Del Boca Vista off of Boca Raton. When my wife and I first met her in-law, or my in-laws, her parents had a condo at the Boca Country Club. And it was much like Del Boca Vista. And then they ended up getting a house down there. Scotty Dubs, what's up? Good morning. Heading to a small card show in Dubuque today. We'll catch the replayer. Awesome. Find some good deals. Abe says, I had a great time at the Madison Card Show per usual, working on a video, going over my pickups. Excellent. Excellent. Rich has a pop quiz. Why was Bo so late this morning? 1, he spent too much celebrating yesterday's Madison Card Show. 2, he secretly wanted all of us to lose patience so he could watch the World Cup finals. Or 3, he needs a Keurig instead of a piece of crap coffee maker. Let's see. 1 is correct. 2, the first part is correct. I'm not watching the World Cup finals. But I did I do enjoy seeing you lose your patience. And yes, my coffee maker was slow. My computer was slow, and I was slow. I was slow getting up, and then the coffee maker was slow to brew, and then the internet was slow to boot up. All of the above. Let's see. Mark Hoyle, what's happening? Good morning to you. Herman says, just started my coffee. Let's see how long it takes. And here's the funny thing. It's, let's see. I've got everything on timestamp because when I sent a message that said my coffee is brewing. And what time did that message go out? That message went out. Oop, wrong screen. Okay, here's the screen. 8:43, or was that the second time I sent that message out? Yeah. So I think 8:43 was about the time I started brewing the coffee. I've been on for 7 minutes, so 9:04. So that's 11 minutes, and it was only half the pot had brewed in 11 or 12 minutes. My coffee maker's too damn slow. Let's see. Herman, I hope it's ready by the time you get on the train. Mike Summer, what's up? My friend Mike, just started your coffee. I've already finished my first pot, filled my orders, recorded next week's pod, listed 600 cards on Sport Lots, and ate breakfast. Mike Summer has done more before 9 a.m. So I've drank half a cup of coffee. I've talked for 7 minutes, haven't shipped a damn thing, haven't listed a damn thing, and haven't even ate breakfast. I'm way behind. I'm way, way, way behind. And took his kids where they needed to go. Let's see. So the Madison Card Show was yesterday, and it was a blast. I had fun. And the thing was, and I probably knew this was going to happen. 8:43 till 9:04. Oh, did I do the math wrong? Oh, I did do the math wrong. It's 7, or wait. 8, 4, 17, 20. It's 21 minutes. I didn't carry the 1 or whatever it is. So 21 minutes. Is that right? 21 minutes and only half the pot is brewed. When I said 11, it's like, well, 11's not that bad. Okay, so 21 minutes. That's how slow my coffee maker is. Half a pot in 20 minutes. So I went into the week and I was just like, I wasn't looking forward to the Madison Card Show. And I didn't want to share that ahead of the Madison Card Show. The promoter's not even excited for the show. What's that tell you? But I really didn't have, November, I was super excited because I was setting up at my own show for the first time in several months. So I was excited about that. And then I did really crappy in November at the show. And I was set up in the hallway. There was less dealers in the hallway last month. So there wasn't as much traffic walking through. They were just going straight into the ballrooms, upstairs and downstairs, kind of avoiding the hallway. So it was probably my worst show. I think there was only one show that was worse out of 25 that I've done in the last 2 years. So maybe that was part of the reason. I was getting a lot of cancellations week of, which is always a frustration. I hadn't even, so I was getting all these cancellations and the show wasn't even a sellout, which I thought it would be. I didn't sell out in November because of many of my dealers were in Chicago. So wasn't selling out. I just didn't have a bunch of first time interested dealers, which is the first time I haven't had that in a long time. So I just and I was just kind of dragging my feet out, and I was waiting until Friday afternoon because I was just waiting for the Friday cancel push. Herman got to see the Friday cancel push when he visited in April, and it was super annoying then because I had a waiting list of like 40 dealers. And when it's Friday night and Saturday morning and you're going down the list and they're like, I'm 3 hours away. I'm not prepared to drive 3 hours to a card show. You got to give me more heads up. And I'm like, I know. So did the dealers that cancel it the last minute. I get it. I know. So there was a little frustration and I went Friday afternoon, set up everything. Fortunately, everything was good to go. I ended up taking a 3-table cancel in the upstairs ballroom, the big room. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to slide in there. I was going to set up in the hallway again, but then I decided I'm just going to go in the upstairs ballroom. And I'm going to close off the hallway. And I'm going to, put the people that normally would have been in the middle and at the end of the hallway, either in I said the M word. I shouldn't say that. The big ballroom, the upstairs ballroom, and then the downstairs ballroom. And then Sheena's up top right at the stairs and Remy's right there. So there's traffic that's, moving right along. So I'll put those guys and Sheena likes that spot. I mean, it's everybody walks by. So he's right there. And then downstairs, I had a dealer that prepaid 3 tables, didn't show up. I had another 2-table that canceled. They were going to be late and then they just canceled altogether. And that was day of. And then I think I had 1 or 2 others that might have no-showed. But I did have one dealer that I didn't have down because that was my fault. But because there was a no-show, was able to get him right into the upstairs room. So those were some of the frustrations. But once I got there, and it was, oh my God, it was, so I'm going to kind of go through like the ins and the outs. So those are and I've like every show review, I probably talk about some of the, the difficulties that a show promoter has to deal with. And it's like, so many people, and I was talking about this with another dealer who sets up at shows like every weekend. So he understands, how things work. And, a lot of, and this is why I started requiring prepayment for first time dealers. It's because, they'll, it's almost like, oh, if I'm tired, I don't want to do the show. They're not going to miss me because I'm not like a regular dealer. They're not going to miss me. And it's like, that couldn't be further from the truth because we have specific amount of spaces and you have one of those spaces. So that's why I do. And there's going to be late cancels on regular stuff comes up. I get it. Sick, especially now, winter weather. I'm in Wisconsin. I've got dealers from Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota. There's going to be issues with weather in the next few months. Fortunately, didn't have too much. Well, I had a couple that was partially to blame. So there's frustrations that go in with that. And it was such a weird start to the morning. And I went in because the 3 dealers that are the earliest, none of the 3 could set up this month. So Troy, Jim, and John. And John had I think a family Christmas. Troy was out of town and Jim had to work. And they all told me like last month, like, hey, I won't be at the show next month. But they're the first 3 guys in the room. So, and usually by the time they show up, all the rooms, I get in, I get all the signage up. And so I'm just kind of awaiting dealers to, show them around and stuff. So, and then we, chit chat a little bit and it seems like, and this is totally anecdotal. Like it's just a feeling, but it seems like when one or two of those guys isn't at a show, it like throws the whole day off for me. It's like my routine. Like, oh, Jim and Troy are going to be the first ones. And now John's started setting up a few months ago. And now John's one of the early guys too. And when they're not there, it's just kind of like it throws the world out of the earth out of orbit, or I don't even know if that's a saying. So none of the three were going to be there. So it's like, oh my God, this is going to be really like, because now none of my dealers are going to show up until after 7. Because I tell dealers, you can start setting up as early as 7. Now I'm there at like 5:30, 5:45, just getting signage, making sure, spaces, moving name tags around of late cancels and all that stuff. So I'm like, man, it's gonna be weird because those guys aren't gonna be there. And so I did have some early birds, and it was different. And it's going on 8 o'clock, and like half the dealers in the upstairs room before 8 o'clock are already setting up. By 8 o'clock, I've got some people walking the floor. And I go downstairs and I kind of go back and forth. All my stuff is set up, and I run into one of the regular customers. And he's coming out of the ballroom, or might be going in, and he's like, "Are there any dealers downstairs today?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So there's 40 tables down in the downstairs ballroom. Not a single dealer. 8-10. Not a single dealer out of 40 tables has arrived. And now I'm starting to sweat. Oh crap. And several of those tables were paid for. But still, I'm like, oh. And then I think it was about 8:15. I had like 4 or 5 show up at the same time. But that's also the room where I think I had 3 dealers not show up. So that was, it was like, oh man. So since there were a lot of late arriving dealers, even though I had more early birds, I think I had more late arrivals, which kind of throws me back, because I'm like, okay, here's your spot, trying to get some payments in, so I'm not running all over the place later in the day. And so I was away from my table a lot in the first, hour of the show. Shout out to Craig and Elijah. And I was like excited to set up where Josh usually is. Josh was under the weather this week. And I kind of had a feeling, because I knew that he had some illness going through his family, that he wouldn't be able to make it. But he's right. He sets up right next to Craig and Elijah. And then Aaron's on my other side. He's done like most of my shows, same spot for probably, I don't think he's missed a show in the last year plus. And Craig and Elijah, great guys. So I was very comfortable, and I knew that they would I didn't even have to ask. They just jumped right in and helped anybody out or pointed them into my direction. Like, oh yeah, he's digging through that quarter box over there. And then a customer, and I hate doing this, but it's what I do. I walk away from my table and look through quarter boxes. But I did find 8 or 9 Ethan Roberts Heritage High numbers. I think I bought a few off Sport Lots this week. But Tom from Real Breaks had Heritage High number in a 4-row box, and quarter a card. I think it was like 8 for $1 though. 25 cents. Yeah, he had 25 cents a card, or 8 for $1. And I'm like, oh, nice. So I bought 16, or maybe even 17. So I got all the Cubs. There were 2 Saya Suzukis in there and a Jeremy Pena. And first I pulled the Pena. I'm like, I'm going to pull the Pena out for, what would that 12 cents? 8 for $1. Is that 12 cents? 12 and a half cents. And he's like, oh, there's a Pena in there. And I'm like, yep. I'm like, it's the only one I found. And he's like, yeah, my son was supposed to pull all those. And then I found a Suzuki, and I'm like, I found a Suzuki. And he's like, Seiya? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, he was supposed to pull those. And I found 2 Seiya Suzukis. So I got both of those. I missed 1 row because I had to go tend to my table. And I think Victor might have found the other Seiya Suzuki. Or maybe it was Randy. Randy's a big Cubs collector in Janesville. I think it might have been Randy that found the other Seiya Suzuki in the row that I skipped. So found those out of the quarter box. Tom from Real Breaks, I got into like, I think 4 Bowman Chrome breaks with them. And And so Tom asked me, he's like, hey, it's $9 if you want to submit any of these to SGC. They had a Bowman Chrome special, $9 a card. And he subbed a ton of like the hits. So I did sub 3 colors. So I'll show those off in a bit. Let's see. I'm going to go to the chat real quick as I ramble on. Herman took his first sip. Mark's already on my 3rd large iced coffee. Good luck to the Bears today. I'm rooting for the Eagles, even though I'm wearing the Bears. Noon game, Eagles Bears. I'm rooting for the Eagles to win, but I want the Bears to like be in the lead most of the game, and then like the Eagles win on like a last-second field goal. So at least it's competitive, and I feel like the Bears are winning most of the game, but then end up losing, so we can keep in line for a top 3 draft pick. Jenny's never had a sip of coffee in her life. I've more than made up for that. John, speaking of football, what a Vikings game yesterday. Victor and I were watching that from the hotel bar. Here's the funny. Victor and I are at the hotel bar after the card show yesterday, and the game's on like one of the big TVs in like the lounge, and we're at the bar, but there's like a wall that is like half obstructing the TV, so we can't really see the TV. So Victor gets his phone out and turns the game on. So we have it on the iPhone in front of us at the hotel bar, and the bartender's like, the game's on that big TV over there. And we're like, yeah, we can't see it. We don't want to move. But yeah, what a game. Somebody in the show was walking by, and they're like, do you think they take Jefferson out and whoever else the Vikings have? And I'm like, is it a blowout? And they're like, yeah, it's 30-0. I'm like, wow, the Vikings are up 30-0. They're like, no, they're down 30-0. I'm like, holy crap. And then we turn it's like tie game. Holy crap. Let's see. Where are we at? John, speaking of football, wow, what a Vikes game yesterday. John has no comment. World Cup finals later. No offense to dealers, but I've noticed lately dealers are getting later and later arrivals. I think it's part of the card show burnout of the Midwest. The excitement to get there early is faded. I think there's definitely some truth to that. There's definitely a card show fatigue. There's more and more popping up. It's, and there's only, if you have a Saturday show, there's only 4 Saturdays a month. And so it's pretty easy to go head to head. Yesterday, there was a show in Stevens Point. There was a show, maybe it was just Stevens Point that we went head to head. I thought there was one maybe in Kenosha, or I think Racine is today. But it's like, you do it the first month, and there's this show and this show. You do it the second week, this show and this show, third week, this show. So it's like you're bound, especially here in Wisconsin. There's probably a dozen monthly shows in Wisconsin between Green Bay area, Milwaukee area, Madison, Janesville, Racine. So there's just shows everywhere. Let's see, but I definitely think there's card show burnout. Paul says, ever figure out if the large SGC card was a border issue or lack thereof? So what Paul is referring to is, so I had a turkey red that I bought. I bought this in a Facebook group it was what I thought was a great price. It is a great price. It was like $70, I think, is what I paid for it. For an original turkey red, my first turkey red, Frank Chance. So this is, SGC would not slab it. It was I didn't even look at the back. So they would not slab it because it's too fragile. So that's the back of it. Of course, the front of it, a lot of paper loss, you got that. So yeah, the SGC says, 1910-11 T3 turkey red, Frank Chance checklist, too fragile to holder. So at least the sticker, shows it's authentic. So it doesn't say authentic, but I think just by them saying that, I think that is proof, I guess. So I think what I'll do with this, it's such a cool item. I mean, it's big. I think I'm going to get a frame for it. I think I'm going to frame it because it's like a piece of art. It's not really a card per se. It's more of a piece of art. Since I'm showing it, I have this also came back. This came back authentic altered. but it's a 1927 exhibits Charlie Grimm, an early Charlie Grimm card. So that's the Charlie Grimm, authentic, altered. So I'll show off. There's a couple SGC returns that I'll show off. Let's see. Dan says, damn, Colts blew the lead and didn't get to 5 wins. You can start picking up Swanson cards next year. Yep, Dansby Swanson, a Cub. How about that? That was the big news. There was a couple big news stories, at least for my interest, the Cubs and the Wisconsin Badgers. Somebody's like, I think it was Brady who used to set up at all my shows. He was walking the floor. And he's like, yeah, I don't know if Cooter's still in here, but the backup Oklahoma quarterback, Nick Evers. I wonder if he's related to Johnny. Is transferring to Wisconsin. So that was big news. He's like, just came across like 30 minutes ago. I'm like, oh, that's good. He was a 4-star quarterback, but Wisconsin, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Graham Mertz was also, and look how that turned out. But I think Graham Mertz is going to have a hell of a season with Kentucky next year. And then Dansby Swanson signs with the Cubs. I'm excited. I'm excited about that. I mean, he wasn't my first or second choice. Might not even have been my third choice, but he was the only one available. So Dansby is a Cub. So I will be excited about that. Mark says, no lead big enough for Ryan. 2 of the biggest comebacks ever. Joseph, what's up? Joe Polanski, one of my dealers at yesterday's card show. Great show, sold a ton early, but then I bought a lot also. That's good. That's good. I like that. And it was strange. So I mentioned the kind of some late arrivals. The crowd was also late arriving. It's 9:00 and I'm like, oh man, the room's pretty bare. This is going to be a tough show. Usually you can gauge a show within the first 5 minutes. And typically how shows roll, if there's a big crowd before the show begins, or right at the start, shortly after the start, it's going to be a great show. However, that's kind of flipped here recently because I had a show, and I don't know if it was last month. It might have been October. I think it was October because the October show was really down. And in October, I bet I had a dozen people walking the floor an hour before the show started. And I'm like, man, this is going to be a banging show. And it sucked. It was a terrible show. And then yesterday, it's like, oh my God, the room's empty. Not empty, but there's not too many people walking the floor at 9 a.m. This is going to be rough. And all of a sudden, by 9:30, 10 o'clock, the room's full. And it's like, holy crap, I'm looking like there's somebody at every table in the room. And then it kind of died down. And I'm like, okay, there's football games on today. It's going to be, people are going to be gone by 11. And I think Paul, who's in here, I think he was one. He's like, yep, I'm coming out early and leaving early. And so we had kind of a lull. And then all of a sudden we had another rush. We had 2 morning rushes, which was kind of nice. And there were it was consistent traffic through the show where the last few months, dealers packing up 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and wasn't quite the case. Had quite a few people still set up by 2, 3 o'clock. Let's see. And I'm gonna get through the chat. I also bought some stuff, and I wasn't there to buy, but I didn't spend much money. So even though it was like 8:45 and I'm already digging through a bargain box. Oh, I'm going to buy this, this, and this. It's like, I wasn't going to buy anything today. Herman says, isn't that what it's about? Absolutely. That's how I do it. Love it. Dan is here. What's up, Dan? Rich says Messi scores for Argentina. There are some people in the hobby who are too fragile to hold her, right? Mark says the turkey red looks trimmed but authentic. The holders for them are huge. Yes, they are. I always prefer to get to the card shows early as a vendor for 2 reasons. To be the early bird and to get my table set up so I don't feel I have to panic at the last minute. Rich and I are exactly in the same line of thinking. I love getting to the shows early because both of those reasons. When I get to the show early, I can get all of my stuff set up, and then I can be an early bird buyer and I can dig through. That's how I pulled out that super short print Ronald Acuna from a quarter box that sold for $250 because I had all my stuff set up and I had time before the show started or, early on in the show to dig through a quarter box. And even though I didn't know it was a super short print, I'm like, hey, it's a gold cup, Ronald Acuna. It's worth at least a few bucks. Little did I know. So that's exactly why I like setting up early. Bo has it too easy, so easy with the quarter boxes, plop them down and he's done. Yeah, the only thing I have to do is make sure they're in sport order. I like to, so my 3 tables, I had 1 table devoted to basketball, 1 table devoted to football, 1 table devoted to baseball. And then inside that, it's a free-for-all. It's like, then you have to dig. If you're looking for a 1981 Fleer, good luck to you. Probably not worth your time digging to find specific cards. But if you like the thrill of the chase, it's a lot of fun. Dan says, question to you as a show promoter, would you rather have a dealer? Would I rather have a dealer or a customer? I don't know what you mean by that. Would I rather be a dealer or be a customer? I'll need clarity on the question. Herman says, great fielder, but struggles with the bat sometimes. That's my concern. Great defender, but the bat is a little weak. Let's see. I had the split Swanson and Albies. Great shortstop, second base duo. Yeah, and now we move. We move Nico Horner from short to second, and Nico Horner was like a Gold Glove finalist at second base a couple of years ago. So I think Nico's that's more of his natural position. So I think it works. It's a win-win. We get Dansby at short, and then we get Nico back at second. Sal Dougie, which is Abraham, by the way, says Evan Altman tweeted that Dansby's father's name is Cooter. Cooter? Where's Cooter? Where's Cooter? As a promoter, I'd rather have the dealer. She pays more than the customer. Plus, if you have decent dealers, the customer come. Oh, okay. So I think I know what you mean by that. Now that 2-0 Argentina, says Paul. So I think what Dan means, and correct me if I'm wrong, so it's a chicken or the egg, essentially. Would I rather have more dealers or more customers? Cooter is here. Are you Dansby's father? I want both. Neither one is more important than the other, because if you don't have good dealers, the customers won't come. And if you don't have customers that come, the dealers won't come or stop coming. So you need a balance. And so I can't answer that question because they're both equally important. Let's see. Jenny says, Cooter has been right here since 4:30 a.m. He's been waiting. At least we can catch Cub games on TV, so I can still watch him play some. Dan says, you can send Nick Madrigal back to us on the south side. I would be glad. I would be so glad to do that. You can have him back for free. Just take his his contract's probably not much. I'm not a Nick Madrigal fan. So he's more than welcome to return to the south side. Paul Heath, what's happening? Let's see. No, but I might be Luke's. Jenny says yes and no to dealers spending more than customers. Some customers drop 500 plus at shows. Some dealers get one table for 50 or 40 or whatnot. It takes all kinds. My July show was the week before the National, and I had a lot of people like, oh man, it's the Saturday before National. I think I had 1 or 2 dealers that didn't show up because they were traveling to Atlantic City. But I had the buyers were in the room, and like I had one buyer buy out like 4 or 5 tables, half the tables, and spending a lot of money. So sometimes you get buyers that come in and will drop. Look, Ryan Nolan comes in to our Midwest premiere and drops 20 grand as a customer. So now, do you have those at monthly shows? Probably not. But are guys going to drop a few thousand? Absolutely, for sure. So, I need to shave. Like my wife leaves town and my hair, if I like gelled my hair up, maybe tomorrow, cause I think I'm going to get a haircut tomorrow. I'm just gonna like put the gel in and see like how far out of focus the out of camera the hair is. So I need to get a haircut. I need to shave. I look like a mess. Let's see. The show was great. Traffic was up. I did really well. It was probably my best show out of the selling, quarter boxes, probably since the Rockford show in August. I could probably go back and look. I don't know. Or maybe when was the November? Was there a November Rockford? Yeah, I did 3 shows in November. I think I actually wrote these down, like what I did each month. And I also feel better because I got a feel on how other dealers, like what other dealers are making per show. And that's something I don't like asking. I don't like talking about numbers, how much you make. But I talked to a few yesterday, and looks like I didn't put it in my notes section. I feel pretty good, especially when I made like over $600. So there, I'll share a number. The August Rockford show, I made over $600 selling quarter cards. And a lot of dealers they're making it like monthly shows, 1,000 to 2,000, and these are like showcase dealers. So that kind of gives you a range of, okay, if you make $500 and you're selling bargain box stuff, you're doing really damn well. My goal was typically at a monthly show selling quarter cards. My goal was usually 200. And then when I added some really great stuff, I went to 300. And I, busted through that a few times. But mostly it's around, depending on the show. Rockford, I always did really well out of my quarter boxes. Janesville, I don't do well. I do good by buying things in Janesville, but I'm usually making 100 to 150 in Janesville out of my quarter boxes. When I was doing the Madison show up until, I think March was my last show before last month, I was doing between 300 and 400. And then last month, I think I did 150. And then yesterday I did about 250. But I sold a box. I sold a full box. So I won't share who it was. But I did sell a whole box. So thank you. That really helped. The sales. So that was a good show for me. $250 selling quarter cards is good. Cause I thought about, I still have so many of the basketball like relics, and it's like, maybe I should just bring all dollar box cards. And I'm thinking about that for next month. What's a dollar box? And do I do I did an experiment when I went to the Green Bay show. I set up at the Green Bay show in May, and I did dollar cards, and I did really well. But I also stayed in a hotel, and there was a lot of expenses. So it was kind of like, I didn't really make much, especially after I bought stuff. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to flip the script, and I'm going to do dollar cards. And it was a big failure. So, and then I tried doing dollar boxes and quarter boxes, and it was like everybody just migrated to the quarter boxes. So we'll see. And that's probably more the same. And the funny thing is, there's less money in the rooms. And this is at every card show. We all know the market is down. There's less money to go around, but you can still make money. And I sent a tweet out because for the most part, the dealers yesterday were really happy. There were a couple that, weren't happy with their results, but it wasn't for lack of traffic. There was a lot of buyers in the room. So if a dealer didn't have a good day, it was kind of on them, whether it was the prices weren't right or just the cards weren't right. So my tweet last night was, people have successfully sold sports cards for 50 plus years. Why are your sales down? Do you know what your customers want? Are your prices competitive? Are you learning to adapt? It was easy in 2020 and 2021, but you have to be smart in a down market. We are, no surprise, in a down market right now. Are you learning to adapt? And that can be at a card show, or if you're selling online, whatever platform you're selling on. You have to learn to adapt, and you have to adjust pricing, because you can't put your card for sale, whether it's in a showcase at a card show or on eBay, for what it was selling for when you bought it. If you bought it in May of 2021, I'm sorry. If you want to get rid of it, you're going to take a loss because the market's not what it was in 2020 or 2021. And then if you're dealing at monthly shows, and this is something that, you know, when I have poor sales, many times, why do I have poor sales? It's because I haven't restocked my quarter boxes. And I've noticed I'll have regulars, and then all of a sudden, when I don't put new stuff in there, my regulars aren't showing up. And it's because I don't refresh the inventory. If you don't refresh a showcase and it's the same stuff you had at last month's show, usually you're drawing from the same pool of people. Like, you know, a monthly show, you're not going to get a lot of people driving in, flying in to a monthly show. 100 tables, 125 tables, 75 tables. You're going to be drawing from the same collecting pool from probably within a 3-hour radius. So it's going to be a lot of the same customers. So bring them new stuff to look at. And if you bring the same stuff month after month, your sales are going to decline. I had, this was still probably in the boom. I had a dealer tell me, I did so good last month. And I think it might've been his first month set up. And then his second month, he's like, I just didn't do well at all. He's like, I had the same stuff as last month. It's like, well, there you go. You had the same stuff you had last month. You sold all the good stuff. And the people that are here today were also here last month, and you didn't refresh the inventory. So where are we at? Let's see. Jenny says, I'm also one to never look at what is in the wallet, if that makes sense. Dan says, Bo, that makes sense. I think your approach is correct. I feel like how a promoter answers that question probably would impact how they do things like admission fees and signs. Jenny says, a shop around here said they didn't like the amount of kids that came to trade night because it took up their time on $4 cards when they could have been doing bigger deals with adults. That's a poor approach. I found that shady. It shouldn't be about who has what in their wallet. If you want them in your shop, absolutely. Because kids grow up. Remember, kids grow up. They're not always going to have just $4 in their wallet. And I think that's, it's refreshing though, as I'm at a lot of shows, I'm promoting a show, I'm a dealer at a lot of shows. What I've noticed, and I know some people have said don't feel the same that with my opinion on this, but when I was in Zach actually brought this up to me when we were, when I think it was the first time we met at the Oak Creek show. And he's like, God, the dealers are so much nicer than what I remember when I was Porter's age going to card shows as a kid in the 90s. And it seemed like it was all about the buck in the early 90s when I was a kid. Now dealers give stuff away like, oh yeah, you can have that here. That never happened to me. Maybe the card shows I was going to were bad. I don't know. But Zach brought it up, and then I thought about it, and I'm like, you are on point. I have never thought of that. You were exactly right. Because I didn't have, kids. I see dealers giving kids stuff all the time. I feel like dealers today are much more, probably why? Because the dealers today were kids in the early 90s, and dealers traditionally didn't treat kids the way, not appropriately, but just as well as dealers now. Rich says, however, that sign, so the dealers have to come first. However, that sign and other incidents like Ryan Nolen had recently are symptoms of a changing downward for the dealer hobby. I agree. Yeah, it's, you have to have both. You have to have both. You don't get customers without the dealers, but you don't get dealers without the customers. Let's see. And you're going to get less if you put signs up. And I know John Newman on his podcast in a couple of weeks is going to have the promoter of that show that put that sign up. Which again, I think it might've been brought up on Hobby Hotline, where every state's different with like tax reporting. There are some states where, like in Arkansas, show promoters of any kind, not just card shows, but other events and other, shows where you're selling, flea markets, that stuff, have to collect sales tax. So, I don't know what New York's rules are. Wisconsin, Illinois are basically, yeah, you can just set up and you're kind of, you have to do your due diligence to report your taxes, whether you're a dealer or a show promoter. Like, you have to report what you make to the tax guy. But Wisconsin, Illinois, pretty lax when it comes to like all of that stuff. So New York might be different. I don't know. So it'll be interesting to hear the promoter in that show's perspective. Jenny says, or you got to get dealers and customers all in one. If you fill the place with dealers and no customers, the dealers may not come back. Then you don't want the customers to come to no dealers. Nailed it. Let's see. I can see it being a challenge for a promoter to make these shows work great. It's definitely more of a challenge today than it was in December of 2021. That's for sure. I didn't do a show in December last year. That was another thing. It's like I had a lot of and this is also like a clear sign of the changing of the boom, the downward trend of the market. Last November was my last show until January, and I had many dealers, many customers. Oh man, you should do a show in December, and like people were clamoring, dealers and customers, because money was flying in November and December last year. We need shows, we need shows, we need shows. And that's why you see an overabundance of card shows today, because there weren't enough in 2021. We need more. Now we need less. And so it's like, so I put my contract together for the whole year for 2022 and decided to skip. And this was early because I did my contract in like October or November of last year. It's like, well, I'm going to skip December because of the holidays and all that. You never know. And then it's like after November, December, and then my January show was absolutely insane, January 2022. And it's like, I should probably schedule a December show. And so December was added onto the schedule. And then within the last month, dealers are like, oh, I don't know. Decembers are usually down. It's like, you were begging for a show last year in December. Now it's like, well, December. But it was great. We did have a great turnout. It was a great show for December. Let's see. Paul says, won't call out specifics, but if a dealer doesn't do well, there's probably a reason. I would exactly agree with you. 20% of the dealers in that room can be cut and not missed one bit. And that's, I wasn't going to bring this up, but since Paul did mention, I may scale back the show and take it back to one just upstairs. Because I closed off the hallway and I wanted, a bulk of the dealers to be in the rooms. And I had enough to, fill for the most part without the no shows downstairs, the Williamson downstairs ballroom. But it's like in January, there was somebody that publicly complained on Facebook that it's like, man, if you're going to talk SHIT, I don't want you back. And so I just might be more selective with dealers and scale it back. It's not going to be 125 tables next month and I don't know. I'll have to talk to the venue because I've signed a contract for January, February, March, and it might have to work with them. But it's like, if I'm not selling the show out, and then I've got some dealers that, may not have the stuff that's going to sell. And that's the thing. This is all about sales. And when I worked in the transportation industry, and I worked for a 3PL, and I had clients, and when you talk to a potential client, it's like, yeah, we do. And the company I worked for, we were full truckload freight. We did some LTL, but it wasn't our specialty for a couple reasons. Like, we just didn't do volume. So it came down to price. And when you're in transportation, it's like bottom line price. There's really no relationships in transportation. To an extent, sometimes there are, but for the most part, it's really tough. So I'd call these potential clients, and they'd it might be they do over dimensional freight, and I dabbled a little bit in that, and then you have to deal with permits in every if I would have a shipment from Illinois to Texas, and I have to look at each state that it's going to drive through: Illinois, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, whatever other states are in there. Okay, what are the because each state has different over dimensional regulations, and maybe this piece of machinery can get by Illinois, Missouri, but Oklahoma's a little tighter on their restrictions, and it's too big, and now we need an escort, and then it's like, okay, I'm out. So it's not going to work. Not everything. It doesn't. Sometimes it's putting a round, what is it, a square peg in a round hole. And high-end dealers, we're not in the market if you have high-end stuff. A monthly a monthly hotel show probably is not a good fit for you. And if you're going to bitch online about how the show sucks, I don't want you at my show. To be frank, not my neighbor, Frank. So I think I'll just be more selective. So I wasn't going to mention that, but since Paul said something, he's right. And so, we'll close off, and that way we can just have, it's more fun, because I want the show to be fun. I don't care about, I don't want the biggest show. I don't care if it's the best show. I don't care if it's the biggest show in Wisconsin. I don't give a shit. I want to have fun. I want people to come in, buy cards they like at good prices from good dealers who want to be there and who enjoy being there. This isn't just I want to go set up because I want to make money. I want to go buy cards so I can flip them. I want the show to be a collector's show. And if the high-end snobs looked at, it's a bargain box show, get out of here. It's not for you. Go to another show. Go to Chicago. Go to the Spectacular. I want this to be a good show, and a fun show. And I have plenty of dealers that are awesome. I'd start naming names, but then I'm going to leave somebody out. But every once in a while, there's one that's like, you know what? I'm sorry. This show's not for you. So that's my thought. But it was a fun show. I mean, there was that one Facebook post pissed me off. But other than that, not too many people complained. And there was some people had slow sales. Yeah, you get that. You get that. Every show's different. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Bronco, baseball card. By the way, Bronco and I played Name That Player. Speaking of, we played Name That Player with 1987 tops. And it was a blast. So I think that video is going to be up on his channel tomorrow. So check out Baseball Card Illustrated with Bronco. So we actually did 1987 tops. Victor, my friend Victor, who came, brought me a couple cellos of 87 tops and some packs of 88 tops. So next Friday, on the Free For All Friday, we're going to play Name That Player. So we can... on Friday morning, we can pick between 87 or 88. So Bronco had a bunch of different packs to choose from, and I saw 87. I'm like, can we do that one? I want to do that one. And he had football, he had basketball, he had baseball. So I'm like, I want to do 87. I'm not going to spoil it. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. So check that out. Baseball Card Illustrated, Bronco, here on YouTube. Name That Player with 1987 tops. He'll put that video up tomorrow morning. So that was a ton of fun. And I think it might have been Bronco who I think it was. Oh, and I'm forgetting what he was talking about. I think it was in his video. Yeah, he did put a Madison show review video up. And I did, if you're on Twitter, I retweeted it last night. But he brought something that he didn't think would sell last month, and it was like the first thing that sold. And then so I think it was Aaron Ashby. And he's like, so I brought some Aaron Ashby. And of course, they didn't sell. And that's how it is. Like every month, every show is different. Going back, my best show in like 2 years was Rockford, August. And I sold over $600 out of quarter boxes. And and a lot of people were looking at football. Of course, it was leading up to football season. So I'm like, man, September football is going to be week 1 or week 2. It's going to be it's going to be banging. I'm going to make $600 again. And guess what? Crappy show. You just never know. Nobody. I had like one people. I had 1 or 2 people look at the football boxes in that September show. So you just never know. It's like a box of chocolates setting up at a card show. Let's see. Rich says, one of the issues with kids, and I'm saying this as a former shop owner and manager, is kids will say just looking and not say a word until the adults then say something. That's true. It's like they need attention. This is, of course, back in the day. Let's see. There was a kid that was he was very inquisitive. He reminded me this kid that was, and it's seasonal, so you'll get it because you've likely watched Home Alone in the last couple weeks. The kid that asks all the questions when the family's getting ready to leave for the airport. I used to know all the entire script by heart, and I can't remember. Do these fans get good gas mileage? That kid. So there was a kid that was asking a ton of questions. It was funny. And he came up and he was asking like, what's an extreme box? And I'm like, and so there was somebody at my table, looking through the quarter boxes, and he's like, and I'm like, extreme box? I don't know. I thought he was looking for Pokemon. And I'm like, I don't have any Pokemon. And the guy's like, I think he means I think he's reading entire box. And I'm like, oh, it's the entire, you can buy the entire box for $100. And he picks up a small box and he's like, but you can buy this box for $50. And I'm like, yeah. So you're rewarded. The more you buy, the better deal you get. And so he puts the $50 box on top of like the $100. He's like, there's way more cards for $100 than this small box for $50. I'm like, yeah, you get rewarded for buying a lot of cards. And then he goes to Aaron next to me, and he's like, 10 for $1? He's like, yeah, you can buy 10 cards out of this row for $1. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna go get $1. So he goes to mom or dad, gets $1, comes back, and he just gives it to Aaron. And Aaron's like, well, what do you want? He's like, here's $1. And Aaron's like, you can get 10 of these cards for $1 or 1 of these cards in the $1 box. I don't know if he ended up buying anything or not, but it was a funny exchange. Let's see. Rich says that's because base cards were important back in the day, and today they get trashed. Literally, I know. Fortunately, I don't see often where somebody buys a hobby box and just leaves it, on the table. A few times, like when I'm doing my walkthrough at the end of the show after everyone's left, I'll see like a pack of cards laying on a table. The November show, somebody left and I think I shared my Allen and Ginter. There was somebody pulled the hits out of the hockey and Allen and Ginter box, and Eric, who's one of my dealers, is like, yeah, they just left them, and he's a hockey guy and I'm a baseball guy, and I'm like, you want to split them? I'll take the baseball, you take the hockey. He's like, yeah. And most of I just put them in my eBay store, $150, and a lot of them have sold. Let's see. Dan says there should be a primer on how to be a good dealer and not a jerk most of the time that I walk away from a table. It has more to do with the attitude of the dealer than the cards and the price. It's all about it's personality. I mean, I don't think you can't teach. It all comes down. It's almost like, and say it's like, were you born for sales or can you be taught? And it's kind of like nature versus nurture. And I just don't think you can teach. I just don't think it's something where you just have it. You have it or you don't. And it's just kind of like, I think you can improve when it comes to the product you're selling. But I think personality wise, jerks are jerks. Jerks are going to be jerks. That's just, nice guys are going to be nice guys and jerks are going to be jerks. You can't teach that. You can teach how to like what to sell, how to sell. But when it comes down to acting like a jerk behind the table, that's just that's something that it is what it is. Rich says, I saved at least 500 cards last night from being put into the trash. Oh, I love it. Rich says, I had a New York sales tax license and it was on me to send in the money. Okay, and that's how it is here. Like, I have to report all that crap. Cooter says, my favorite dealer treated me with respect and understanding when I was 13 and only had $10 to spend. He's always my first stop at the Dallas show 40 years later and gets the majority of my money. There you go. Because 13-year-old Cooter is going to grow up to be, how old are you, Cooter? With more than $10 in his pocket. And that's the sign of a good dealer. Good night to you, Dan. It's late over there. Thanks for staying up. Paige and Deanie Bean, what is up? World Cup soccer halftime. Is that why my views went up? Oklahoma, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels reference. I have seen that movie, but it's been a long time. Apparently, everyone and their brother is on TCDB this morning, or I am hooked to Bo's Wi-Fi. Aaron, who's a dealer that I was next to yesterday. He was showing me he's like a 90s basketball collector. And so he was showing me, he's like, yeah, I'm building all these sets. And so he's got a binder, old school. And I bet he's my age, which is old school now. But he's got a binder and he's got TCDB printed out and in a 3-ring binder. And so I'm like, oh man, I love TCDB. And I'm like, do you log your stuff on there? He's like, oh no, I just go on there and print these checklists out. And I'm like, oh, you can do it. Like you can put like your want list. Like if you have a mark, you can mark off your want list and you can put you can trade and you can show like what your want list is. And I'm like, I don't do that, but I've got some friends that are like hardcore and do tons of trades on there. I'm like, you could probably fill a lot of this stuff just through trading on TCDB. He's like, oh man, I'm going to have to look into that. So I think his friend's going to set up in his place next month. So I'll have to check in with him in February to see how that's going. Or I think we're friends on Facebook. I can just message him. Let's see. Andrew says you're in it for the right reasons. If your goal is to just have fun. And I did yesterday. And at the end of the day, I did well sales wise for my quarter boxes, but it didn't matter. Like that was secondary. Like Victor came in from Chicago. He's like, I'm going to go have a drink. And I'm like, hey, I've got to wait. I'm going to wait. I had a few dealers packing up. And, so I was just going to wait till everybody left and then pack up my stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'll come join you for beer. We had 2 beers together, maybe 3. And we just hung out, talked and, had a great time. Of course, the dealers I have great dealers. I have a couple that one yesterday that complained. But I have great dealers. I have great customers, and everybody has fun. Like, there was no drama yesterday. There was no theft that was reported. And I think everybody was having a good time and that's what it's all about. Like you just create a space where collectors can have fun. Jenny says also tossing it out there in case someone watches not live. As a Twins collector, I have lots of double 2021 inserts so far for trade if a fellow Twins fan wants to trade dupes. Very cool. Rich says, Cooter, it helps that both Roger and Charlie worked with kids as part of their daily lives along with the hobby. So they had a ton of empathy toward kids. Very cool. Let's go sports cards. PNW, what is up? Long-time watcher, first-time commenter. What is up? I just wanted to thank you for all of your information. Hey, thank you for watching and commenting. I appreciate that. Because of you, I've expanded the cards I will list as I found there's a buyer for almost any card. Isn't that awesome? Like, I never would have thought that. I've sold cards I never thought I would and would have just tossed. It's amazing. And sometimes I'll throw a card and I'll put together like 100 cards in a batch to upload to eBay. And I'll like dig through and it's like, I'm going to put this Andres Galarraga in a Cardinals uniform from 92 Upper Deck, maybe 93 Upper Deck. And it's like Galarraga is like a pretty popular player and there's not too many Cardinals cards of him. I'm going to see if this sells. And then boom, within 2 days, it sells. I love it. Let's see. I've also started taking photos and bulk loading them to Card Dealer Pro, and I've been able to list so many so fast. That is awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. That is awesome. Cooter says, one of my favorite memories is Ernie Banks singing show tunes to Charlie while he signed autographs at one of Roger's shows. Banks and Roger became good friends. That's really cool. Herman's on the road listening in the background. Safe travels, Herman. I think he Polar Express Day for Herman. Game's back on in the World Cup. So let's show off some cards. Let's see. So this box, I showed you the packs that Victor gave me. Let's see. And then here's the Heritage High numbers. So I picked up, I think, 9 Ethan Roberts cards from Heritage High numbers. Let's see. And then I found 2 Seiya Suzuki's in the quarter box. And then since they were 8 for $1, so I got those for 12 cents. Marcus Stroman, Clint Frazier. I really like this image. That's a really cool image of Adbert Alzolay. Beautiful sky in the background. Drew Smiley and Miley. Wade Miley. So those I pulled out of the quarter box. I also pulled a Jeremy Pena. My buddy John Gruber, awesome guy, awesome dealer. He's like, here, you can have these. And I'm like, I'll give you $5. I'm like, what do you want for them? He's like, nope, you can have them. He's like, I got them super cheap. And I'm like, well, here's $1 a card. Mo Drabowski, 59 tops. 70 tops, Don Young. And Jimmy Qualls. And then I had a customer, I think this was it Larry? I've got to go into my Twitter messages. Tom. I was way off. I think it was Tom. I apologize if it was not Tom. Gave me this pink refractor, numbered out of 399 of Ian Happ. So thank you to Tom. Let's see. I showed you the SGC. Let's see. And then I wasn't going to buy, but I ended up buying. So let's see. I'm going to try to do this in order. I've got some team bags we'll put over there. There's 2 cards I'm not going to show off because they're a gift to somebody that might be watching. This. Oh, I got this. Oh, I'll show off my Bowman Chrome returns also. So I'm digging through. He shows up in the chat every once in a while. His name is Denny, and he's Dairyland Picker here on YouTube. So shout out to Denny if you're watching, probably later. But I'm digging through his. I was just running around before the show started, and he's like, "Yeah, I've got some great stuff in my bargain boxes." And he's like, "I've got some autos," and I'm like, "Ooh, I'm gonna have to come back and look." So I popped back up, and I started digging. One of the first cards in the $1 box I see. Of course, I tweeted this out. Ken Griffey Jr. rated rookie, and this is a very nostalgic card for me because, and I was sharing the story with Denny. This was my first high-end card. And this was a high-end card in 1989. And back in the day, Walmart would sell blister team sets of, all the teams. And the Seattle Mariners had a team set. And it was $1.99. And I'm like, oh, if I get the team set, there's a Ken Griffey Jr. rated rookie in there. So one weekend, my mom bought me the 89 Donruss Mariners team set with the rated rookie, which was my best card for a long time. And so very nostalgic for me, just a beautiful card. I'm like, $1? And I actually was going to pass on it. And I'm like, I'll let somebody else take that deal. But I kept digging, and then I came across a Kyle Schwarber numbered out of 99. It's actually numbered 1 out of 99. Isn't that an eBay 1 of 1? So a Schwarber green out of 99. I'm like, okay, I can't pass this up for $1. So I'm going to buy this. And then somebody mentioned Ernie Banks. Cooter mentioned Ernie Banks. How about this? Ernie Banks numbered out of 150 from 2017 Museum. I'm like, in Ernie Banks, serial number to 150 for $1. Yes, please. So now I've got 2 cards. I'm going back for that Griffey. So I went back and I bought the Griffey. And then I went through. He had other boxes. They weren't dollar cards, but I bought 2 cards. Like I said, I won't show because they're a gift. And then This was a $20 card, but it's a Fergie Jenkins rookie card, which I do not have in my collection. And I'm like, wow, $20. And so I think so 20, 20, 33. So I think he charged like $30. So he gave me so I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got like 8 cards for $30. So probably, paid about 18, I guess, after the discount. Fergie Jenkins rookie. It's not a Cubs card. It's not part of the count. But it's a Fergie Jenkins. So I'm all about that. And that seemed like a great price. You don't see those often. And then towards the end of the show, my buddy Matt from, by the way, shout out to Masood. If I saw him for the first time in a long time. Masood was with Matt yesterday from 5 Star Cards, which I did a submission. That's where I got only half my submission, by the way. The other half, I think, was just delivered. So they haven't processed it yet back at the office. So I'll pick that up next month. So he comes over and he's like, here, I've got this. And he's like, just let me know what you think are good prices for it. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know. It's a triple color jersey patch, Sammy, numbered out of 85. So I looked up, I'm like, there's like no comps on it. Like a regular unserial numbered patch sold for like $5. I'm like, I have no idea. So he came back over. He's like, you can have it. I'm like, okay. Must have been a good day at 5 Star. Shout out to 5 Star Cards. They're at every show. They take group submissions, PSA, SGC, and they're awesome to work with. Speaking of SGC, wearing the hat. So I was in a couple breaks, like 4 breaks of Bowman Chrome with Tom at Real Breaks. And so SGC had the Bowman Chrome $9 submissions for 2022 Bowman Chrome. And so Tom's like, do you want me to send any of these in for $9? And I'm like, sure. I'm like, send the colors in from the break that I was in with him, which I pulled 3. So I pulled a BJ Murray, Blue Ray Wave auto numbered out of 150. That came back a 9.5 with an auto 10. So I was happy with that. I also pulled a BJ Murray purple auto numbered out of 250. This came back a 9 with an auto 10. I'm like, 9's okay. And I was a little disappointed. The biggie was a true red 3 out of 5. First Bowman Alexis Hernandez. It came back a 9. So Tom's like, man, I was so pissed. He's like, I was going through and it was 10, 10, 10, 10. And then it got to Alexis Hernandez and it was a 9. He's like, I looked all over. I don't know. He's like, can you see what they would have docked? And I'm like, no. This is why I don't grade, because I don't know. If this would have came back a 7, I would have just said, oh, there's probably something wrong with it. I have no idea. I wouldn't even know what to look for. Tom's much better. I should have showed Matt or Masood. But it's kind of hard when it's already slab. Maybe, I don't know. It's hard. It's like centering wise, left to right, top to bottom. I don't know. Maybe it's off centered. I don't know. I don't think you can tell like on video. Maybe there's a light scratch that we can't see with the naked eye. I don't know, but it came back a 9, but it looks beautiful in a slab, in a tuxedo. Oh, well, it's for my own. I'm not reselling it, so I don't really care. So those are some of the things that I picked up at the Madison Card Show yesterday. It was a good time. Good times had by all. Kyle, what's up? Going to be near Madison in January. Super excited to check out the Sheraton Hotel on John Nolen Drive. Yes, Kyle is going to be in the house Saturday, January 21st. It's going to be Kyle's first card show since 1998. That is awesome. So looking forward to meeting you January 21st, the next Madison Card Show. The Sheraton Hotel, John Nolen Drive. Yeah, January weather can be dicey, so hopefully we avoid any winter weather around that weekend. So looking forward to the next show, January 21st, Sheraton Hotel, John Nolen Drive. And again, I may, depending on demand, I did have, after yesterday's show, I received quite a few inquiries for first-time dealers to set up in January. And I know I've got some regulars that will be out. So we'll see. We'll see how we're going to configure the show. Maybe I do knock it back to the upstairs. So we'll see. I haven't decided that yet. And I have to see if they'll even let me, since we have a signed contract for the 2 rooms. They've been great to work with, and I would imagine they won't have any issues, but you never know. So that's what I had for today, reviewing the Madison Card Show. I had a blast. Thanks for coming out. Had a lot of fun. That's what it's all about. I've got some shipping to do, 250 some items to ship. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I still need to eat breakfast. Mike Summers probably already ran a half marathon. So I need to get about my day. Go Eagles today. We want a competitive game. I'd like the Bears to lead at least most of the game and then lose in the final minute. You're like, why? Because I want to keep the Bears in the top 3, get a good draft pick, either get Will Anderson or trade down for more picks. So that's what it is. So it's Christmas week. We're a week away from Christmas. Hanukkah begins tonight. Very festive week. Back at it tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Central for Hobby Evolution, maybe 7:13, depending on if my computer wants to boot up in time. It's Monday, so who knows? So I'll probably share some Christmas stories this week from my mischievous childhood, and I've shared them before. So I'll try not to make them like a ghost story, Andrew. So let's see. So since we are going into Christmas, as we get closer, my mom will be coming up. My wife has volunteered to do a Q&A for those that are interested. We'll get a couple Michelob Ultras in my mom, and then she'll be up for it. So we may do that Christmas Eve night or Christmas night. I know that's not a great time, but we might do that. So I'll just kind of take a poll, like maybe, where are we at? Is Christmas on a Sunday? Yeah, because today's Sunday. So maybe on the free-for-all Friday, we'll play Name the Player on Friday morning on the free-for-all. So maybe Friday morning we'll have a better gauge. People will have a better gauge on like their family schedules for Christmas, and we can figure out a time where I'll go live with my mom and my wife, and you can ask them about my crazy collecting. So we can talk about that Friday. So with that, I got to go ship. I got to eat some breakfast. Have a great Sunday. We'll see you tomorrow.